Hi, this is Jackie Tomlin,
And this is Ellie Lieberman.
and this is When
When
Spirit Speaks.
Spirit Speaks. I listened to the re-recordings and I'm like, God, that's awful. We're so bad. We're so
Maybe that's our
bad at it.
trademark. We'll never get the intro right.
We're never gonna get it right, but it's okay. I think it's a good testament to our personalities.
Yes, yes, yes. And thank y'all for the inquiries. We did take a week off, and
Yes,
we have condolences going up to Miss Ellie, and
thank you.
I'm off. We are back here today, full force. Ellie doesn't even know the topic today. How cool is
I
this?
don't. She's being mean to me today.
She's like,
Well,
"Do you want to tell me the topic?" I'm like, "I will when we start recording."
no. And I'm like, why did you just press the record button? And I'm like taking a sip of my drink at the same time. Like, geez Louise, here we go. This is
So here we
I'm
go.
about surprises. Let's go. What is it?
I want to talk about synchronicities and signs from spirit.
Ooh, no wonder she surprised me. She know I'm gonna love it.
Well,
Okay.
and I want everybody to understand these are our viewpoints, not
Yeah.
to be your viewpoints. We're not forcing beliefs on anyone, but I am often asked,
All
this
the
happened.
time.
Is this a
Yeah.
sign? Is
Yeah,
this
me
a
too.
sign? Is this an omen? Is this a spirit animal? I am asked these questions all the time, and I thought this would be a great topic for a podcast.
Can I just say that I have very strong opinions about this before we go anywhere? Like,
Absolutely,
I want to just
absolutely.
say that I love this topic. Do you want to give them our information first before we
Yes,
start
yeah. Let
blabbing?
me
Because
give
I
you.
know we're gonna start blabbing. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to give you the contact information. Both of us are available for readings, and you may text either phone number. Okay. Ellie Lieberman is Be Guided by the Light. Phone number is 818-427-3870, and that is beguidedbythelight.com. And of course, I am Jackie Tomlin. It is JackieTomlin.com, 804-731-2302. And to reach either one of us, it is When Spirit Speaks Podcast at gmail.com.
Yay!
We got that done.
And let that be a sign to book a reading.
That's right. Let that be a sign.
Okay, well, the first thing I have to ask you, Jackie, about this is, do you know the actual definition of a synchronicity?
No.
Okay, so it's funny because you may catch Jackie call me Sync sometimes.
Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
you'll catch
That's
her.
her
She
nickname.
calls it's my nickname. My man calls me Sync. It's like an alter ego of mine. Synchron
The
It's
short
short for
of
synchronicity.
synchronicity. So I just call her Sync. So
Because people were like, "What's a synchronicity?" And I'd have to explain over and over
now
and
explain to
over.
us, what is that
Are
synchronicity?
you? I just figured I'd torture you for a second
Of
and
course
make
you
you
would.
wait for the karma.
Payback.
So a synchronicity is something that happens more than once, more than twice, more than three times that are unrelated events. So they're disconnected. A, B, and C are not in the same room, and they all make sense.
So it's like
And
when people
it's
report that they see, I'm seeing 111.
yes,
The time is 111.
it
And
can
then I
also
thought something
be
that rang up to be 111.
it can
And
also be experience based.
okay.
So it's like divine intervention. So let's say that you're not sure that you want a pair of pink shoes, these pink shoes,
Right.
and then you go to the dentist, and your dentist is wearing the pink shoes, and then you go for a walk, and the homeless guy down is like, I wish I had a pair of pink shoes, and goes back to whatever they're doing, and you're like, that's really weird. Why did that happen? I guess I'm supposed to buy those pink shoes. That is a synchronicity. That is
Yes.
a divine intervention event. So it
Yes.
can be more than just numbers. It can be more than just animals. It can actually be a
Experience.
message, an
Oh,
experience. I have so many of those.
I know. I know. I had it wasn't a synchronicity. I had an experience. yesterday. The last few times we have done live videos, we've had
Yeah.
my camera trying to zoom in on something, autofocus on something that's not there. So, they're like, oh, that's spirit there. And I always felt that it was someone I knew. I just couldn't put my hand on who it was. So now you're talking about
Yes.
experiences and the synchronicities. Okay. When I was leaving my office, a book fell from
Ooh,
top of the
yeah.
closet. Okay. Well, out that book came, it was a friend of mine. It was her obituary, came out the book. And I just
See,
stuck it back in the book and I went on about I had never connected anything until I was in there and I was washing dishes, and all of a sudden,
it
Alexa,
dawns on you.
no, Alexa says, call Kim.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
Calling, and I'm like,
Yeah.
stop. And
Yeah.
it was the same
Spirit.
person. And
So
then,
this is a perfect example of like
yes, yes,
experiential
yes,
synchronicity. It's like
yes,
there's no way in a million years that those three things could have happened.
in a matter of an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we just talk about timing? Like
Yes.
it's not like this year it was this and then 10 years it was this, now it's a sign. It just like works like
It was today. It was an hour. It's like, I was
yes,
like, wow,
that's
I
amazing.
think I know who, I can't say it was every time, but I think I knew who the camera was trying to hone
At
on.
least that time.
Yeah, and
At
I
least
felt
that
very
time.
warm and fuzzy about that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was good, but it's amazing how these things line up and happen that way.
People trip out. Like I was in this is kind of a segue, but you guys will totally appreciate. All right, here's a story for you.
Okay.
Okay. Story time.
Yep.
So I'm originally from California, where most things are relatively new. So the homes are relatively new in
Right.
comparison to the East Coast.
Right.
So when I moved to the East Coast, like I had never really been in haunted houses. Like I never really had like genuinely like
Right.
spirit
Right.
infested, like really crazy. All right, because
Spirited
like
infested. I love this. I'm gonna
spirit
use this sometime
infested,
this
like
week.
it'd be okay to have like a few things roaming around, in California and stuff, but like
Right.
it's a very different energy, just
Right.
to say the least. So I go to my client's house for the first time, and I pull into the neighborhood, and I'm like, this place is awesome. I'm
Right.
like, goals. I want to be in this neighborhood. Da 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 da. And I pull up, and her address has a 13 in it. And
Okay.
I'm like, not a superstitious person,
Right.
but in my mind, I'm like, uh oh. For some reason, I don't know why this is weird. I'm like, uh oh, and I pull up, and it's at this really weird angle on the corner. And shout out if you're listening, you'll appreciate what I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say
Yep.
her name, but so I get in, and her home is just absolutely beautiful. Like
Right.
it is, it looks like it's been staged. Like it is just incredible. And we start talking, and I give her all these channeled messages, and she's like, sometimes my upstairs shower just turns on. And I'm like, I'm sorry, excuse me, come again?
Right. Right.
I'm like, you mean like just randomly turns on? Like, and she's like, yeah. She's like, and my 10-year-old, she has been talking to me about hearing footsteps. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? So I'm having and I cannot show on my face that I'm having this moment with myself, like, don't go upstairs, don't go upstairs, don't go upstairs. And I'm a medium. So why am I freaking out, right? Like in my mind, at the same time, I'm like, why is this making me so uncomfortable? Hearing these things, am I feeding off of her and her fears and what's making her uncomfortable, or is it me? So she goes, of course. Do you want to go upstairs and check it out? So I go upstairs, and you could immediately feel the energy shift.
Right.
You could immediately feel it. So when you were saying you felt warm and fuzzy, this is what this reminded me of. Because a
Yes.
lot of times we don't understand. I get that question, is this a sign? Is this actually spirit? How do I really know?
Mhm.
I promise you, you will
We'll
feel it.
know. You
You
will
will
know.
absolutely feel it.
It is
It
kind
was
of like,
uncomfortable.
yeah, it's kind of like when people ask me, well, is it a demonic or is it a human spirit?
Sure.
You will know.
Trust me,
You
you're going to
will
want to get the hell out
absolutely,
of Dodge.
you will know. You will feel it. You will sense it. You do not have to be psychic. You are absolutely going to know.
This is my point. Is
and
like she's not necessarily a gifted person. This is a person who
yes.
was like, there's no footsteps.
No,
I don't hear any footsteps. You know what I mean? Like,
and on a
skeptical.
when I get called on the paranormal, people are like, well, how do you know if they're telling the truth? You know that expression, you look like you've seen a ghost?
Yeah.
You look like you've seen a ghost. If you
Listen, I
if
wish
you've
that
really got something going on or you've seen something,
your face, the
it's
way that you respond.
and it cannot be duplicated and it cannot be faked.
Well, here's the other thing, because this is my suggestion for anybody who's having experiences in the home. Listen, this home was
Uh-huh.
built in the 70s,
Right,
but the land is by an Indian burial ground.
right.
Okay.
Enough
And
said.
I'm like, this is making so much sense. And I'm standing in this hallway. And
Yeah,
when I say that this house is in excellent, I mean, it is taken care of. Like, she
right,
is a pristine person. This is
right,
not a messy person. There's not a bunch of old stuff. It wasn't
right.
like there was weighted energy from her not taking care of her place. I just want to preface that.
Yeah,
And I'm standing there and I'm like, here's the key. Whatever you're thinking is the message when you're feeling a change in energy. The first thoughts that you're getting is the message that's coming through. That's what I tell all my clients and all my people. And all of a sudden it comes out of my mouth. I feel like they're just watching over you.
right,
And so and I could see her. I thought she was going to cry. She looked like she was going to cry
right.
because she was so scared of what was going on. And she really is that unknown factor. And could you imagine in the middle of the night, your showers randomly turning on and there's no
It,
one in the house?
it brings up a good point of how our job goes on a daily
Yeah.
basis. You went in to perform a reading, and all of a sudden you're hearing about a shower that comes on. You know, I go in to perform so I think, a regular investigation with
Yeah.
teenage son saying, he goes, well, ain't none of this start till we tried that seance with Uncle Bob.
Right, right. Okay, great freaking point. Well, you didn't preface that there was a seance before I got, yeah, like, so, okay, so history, right? Like,
Right.
so I guess what I'm saying is, like, if you're having activity of some kind, because it ties into science, it ties into messages from spirit.
It
If
does.
you're feeling that, I highly recommend you research your home, the location,
The
the
history.
history, who owned it, maybe what was going on there. So it goes further, of course, because it doesn't ever end where it's at. So afterwards, she's like,
But
I gotta
I
go
want to
outside.
ask you this because I tell my clients this all the time, and it's there again, it's my perspective. Okay. And that is, how many times are you contacted about they have had a dream about a loved one that has passed?
Okay, you want to
Okay.
change? Okay.
And I do feel that those are actual visits from those loved
It,
ones.
it depends.
And then I've got ones that contact me and say, well, I haven't had the dream yet. Well, there's no time over there. So you
This
can't
actually
really
ties
say.
into what this ties into what I was just about. This is
Yeah.
crazy. This is
What are
Jackie
your
being
feelings on this? The dreams
so
of
this is
those that are deceased.
so this is Jackie being very psychic again, because
Yeah.
this person's house that I was talking about,
Right.
we're ending and we're closing the session. We had to go outside because we are so uncomfortable.
Right.
And she's like, do you do medium work? I'm like, yeah. And I was like, who passed? I was like, your dad. And she's like, her jaw just drops. And she
Right.
was like, I don't understand why he hasn't come to me in a dream yet. And that started a whole other conversation. So it's really crazy. This is Jackie being psychic and picking up on the story. So, what do I think about dreams? I think that it's unique to the person personally. I find that when it's actual spirit, they don't move their mouth in the dream, but you can hear them telepathically. It's not an actual like fit. It's very odd. You can feel them, you can sense them, and they're there and they're talking to you, but they're not necessarily moving their mouth when they're talking. I find that to be a really good indicator.
Right.
Uh, Also, if they don't come to you, I'm going to let you share your opinion on that first. If
I,
you're
I
feeling,
think it will, there's no time on the other side. So you
yes,
could tell me your father passed 7 years ago. Well, that could be his 7 minutes. Okay. So, I mean, that doesn't mean anything to him on that side as to how long it's been. I also think it has to do with you being receptive and consciously ready for it.
yes,
I
spirit knows.
I waited, I think 2-3 years for my visit from my dad in my dream, and I got very frustrated. I mean, you died knowing I was
Talked about
right.
we
Why
talked
did
about last episode your grandmother not
right,
coming until giving you the message of
right,
how she had,
right.
how that accident had been until many
And my
years
dad, I
later.
ran off. I ran off.
Yeah, yeah.
And he
I
walked away
mean,
laughing, and it's like, and I think that even though I thought I was ready, spirit
yeah,
wasn't.
spirit. Well, and it's you have to understand that I think people don't understand. They may want that message, they may want that dream, they may want that experience, but grief is a really tricky thing. And it plays tricks on your mind, it plays tricks on your heart. And
Mhm.
so you can think that you're ready for something and it triggers you and it makes your life go into a different direction.
And let
You have to
me
be
tell
very
you, a
careful.
lot of these dreams, and I'm just being honest based on what I hear from my clients, these dreams that they have spent all their time waiting for, the message they want is not what they got.
No, never. Because
Never.
it's spirit's in control. You are not in
Yes.
control.
Right.
The spirit soul. So the other thing I wanted to talk about. So speaking of signs, you're gonna love this.
Mhm.
All right. So how do I know that it's my daddy talking to me, right? Like, how do I
Right.
actually know? Like, that's the
I'm getting
question.
ready to do a video on pendulums, tea leaves, and crystal balls. So let's go back to the
Ooh,
pendulums and all. How do you know what you're talking to?
how do you know what you're talking to? So I am not a crystal ball pendulum person. So
Uh-huh.
I've
Okay.
never used a Ouija board. That's never
Okay.
been
Okay.
something that I've ever done. So
Right.
I actually wouldn't know the answer to that. For me,
Okay.
I'm a feelings intuitive. So
Right.
for me, it's like it's different, right? Like I just go with what I feel.
It is
What
absolutely, it's just like what she was talking about on the investigation that was uncomfortable. If
yes.
you're uncomfortable with spirit, that is not the spirit you should be speaking to.
No, close the door, close the door.
And
Goodbye.
got to go.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yes.
okay, so like protecting your space when you're doing these things, very important. Calling on your angels, very important. Making
Do you
sure you have good vibes
do you get the report of I saw something out the corner of my eye?
all the time. The shadow people too,
Yes. Yes.
all the time.
What's your
So
feelings on that?
I I feel like we are walking with spirit all the time. And
Yes.
when we are just not paying attention, that's when we tap in. Because if you try to do something, you're probably not going to be able to do it. It's one of those things.
Let me
You're
give you an
trying really, really hard.
like I
Yes,
go shopping and I want this specific pink shirt. And
yes,
I go in the store and they don't have that pink shirt. Well, that pink shirt has been in the store for 6 months.
yes.
But
That's an exactly perfect
the day I go to get it, it's nowhere to be found.
because you're trying so hard. It's like
Right.
Murphy's Law, right? Like only when, right? So
Right.
when you're late, that's when you hit every red light. Like that's how it works. So I think that when we are just kind of in, or like, you ever been driving and all of a sudden you're at your destination and you thought about a million things
Yeah. You
and
wondered
you're
if
like,
you killed
how did I
anybody in
get
the
there?
process of getting there.
Yeah, yeah. How did I hit? Yeah, exactly. That is, it's in that time
Right.
that you can chat. That's the same kind of energy you can channel.
Yes.
So I find that when we're just relaxing or we're just doing something and you're not really paying attention, that's when you're picking up on spirit. I personally feel like we are connected to spirit all the time. We are walking with spirit all the time. We just don't pay attention to it.
Well, I think the biggest report I get is the numbers. And I've got a
Numbers.
that is into
Symbols.
numerology, and
Yeah.
things like that. You can Google your numerology if you're seeing repeat sets of numbers, or you're
I
seeing
see numbers all the
symbols.
time. I mean, I
Right.
have been seeing numbers since I was a kid. I just never put two and two together.
What
Um,
about animals? Where do you feel like that?
so
Like
so this
cardinals.
is why.
Cardinals.
Okay, well, so this is where I'm have very strong opinions.
Okay. That's
Okay,
fine. That's
here's
fine.
here's my rule. This is
Okay.
my rule.
Okay.
Okay, if it's winter, you're gonna see cardinals. Period.
Yes.
Okay, so this is my hack, right? My life hack, right? This is where I push. So, uh, um, I tell people who are seeking confirmation from spirit in this way to pick something extremely obtuse, very random, like an octopus or a giant squid or a honey badger or a cobra, something very different
Right.
than you would think, and use that as the sign.
And
Because
all of a
if you
sudden, when a
you see them
cobra appears
everywhere.
in a commercial,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
there's your
Yes.
sign.
There's your sign. And then I use the rule of three because I tend to be more of a skeptical person.
Uh-huh.
I want multiple confirmations. I think it's really
Yes.
fun when they come anyway. I don't want
Absolutely.
to leave
Absolutely.
any shadow of a doubt
So
inside my heart.
now that you've seen that, you're good. So now tomorrow, when you go to Walmart to pick up that notebook, it's got a cobra on the front of it.
There you go. It's spirit. Yep. This
You
is
know?
where it's a synchronicity. This is
Exactly.
where it's more than a coincidence. That's the thing. It has to be
But
more than
you
a
can
just a
ask for
coincidence.
these. That's what the one thing I
Ask
want
for
to
it.
stress. Ask for it.
So
Uh,
here's another thing. So like you could have I had an individual who her mom and her husband's mom died within 2 days of each other.
right,
And so at both funerals in different locations, different sides of the country,
right.
solid red butterflies popped up.
Wow.
And it wasn't just like a monarch or something very basic like a yellow butterfly. They were solid red butterflies. And it wasn't just the physical butterfly either. It was decorations. It was on napkins.
It
It
was
was
everywhere.
on the memorial cards. There were things that there were two very different
It's
people,
tied
completely
in.
different families tied in there. So spirit will sometimes show you the sign that it is. But if you're frustrated and you're not getting communication, if you ask, it will show.
One of my angel cards that I use on an opening of a reading, one of the cards says, ask for a sign.
Ask for it and know what
And
you're looking for.
yeah. And be specific. Be specific.
How do I know?
Ask for
How
something
do
like
I
she
know
said,
I'm
out of the
getting the
ordinary.
answer? Make
Yeah.
it weird, y'all. You know
Yeah.
what my sign used to be? I'll tell everybody. My sign used to be the snuffleupagus from Sesame Street.
Yes.
Sesame Street, that had to happen. Now, what's interesting is it'll be out of sight, out of mind, right? And then
Right.
I'll be going through something 10 years later and snuffleupagus will still show up.
Right.
And
Right.
I'll be like, are you kidding me? Like,
Right.
this is really, it just happened to me recently. I was like, where is this coming from? What is going on? And I'm not around a 5-year-old right now. Why is snuffleupagus coming up on my feed or
Right.
showing me on TV or coming up on a magazine that I never get? Weird stuff happens, y'all. You just got to pay attention.
I have an owl. Okay.
Yes.
And this owl will randomly appear on my fence. And owl is supposed to be wisdom and a good omen and things like that. But he has to appear to me more than once for him to be there to give me a sign. Because
Yeah.
that owl lives on this property somewhere. I don't know where
He
he
just,
lives.
I don't know
He
where it
lives
is, but he's on this property.
He's
Yep.
on this property somewhere. And he will randomly appear on a fence post. And so for me, and don't get me wrong, because he's absolutely gorgeous and I love seeing him. And it's a girl. She had babies. But anyway. And if
Did
y'all
we
never
did
seen a
we
baby
name
owl,
them, Jackie?
yeah, no, well, yes, because if you've never seen a baby owl, it looks like Gizmo. Looks just like cutest thing ever. Anyway, So when my owl appears, I'm flattered. And I mean, it's a gorgeous creature to see up close. Okay.
My
Here's a
my
tiny
mom
picture.
calls it like a god's nod, right? Like it's a
Yes,
god's
yes. And when they fly, their wingspan is just incredible. So,
nod.
love my owl, but to me, if that is something of an omen, an actual omen of good luck
Mm,
or wisdom or something is coming, I need to
sure.
see that owl at least 3 times in that week.
For it to be actually something because it lives on the property. She's being see the
Right,
practical perspective, guys. You
right.
cannot. It's very
You can't
easy
take
to
everything as a sign.
read into everything. It's so hard, and trust me, discernment is very difficult here. You guys are not crazy. I understand how difficult it is. Go with your gut.
Yes,
If your gut says you're not so sure, ask for confirmation.
right.
You will get it. I promise you will get it. Now, what happens
Absolutely.
when they don't get it? They don't
Well,
get signs at
here's the
all.
problem. Here's the problem. We have some things that are just not signs.
Yeah.
They just happen. And we have some things that are superstitious. I, for one, will exit the windshield every time a black cat crosses the path. Absolutely. So I mean, you've got to have some discernment there.
Y'all, I'm not
But I'm
traveling
like
with
Ellie.
Jackie.
It's what you felt in that moment.
It's about like
Not everything is a sign. Not everything.
that's that's the hardest part. So like when I first started awakening, quote unquote, right? Because I've always been a psychic individual since I was very little. But
Right.
having a spiritual center, that came later in my life. Like being spiritually centered and understanding what I believe in and understand, my philosophy, my faith.
Right.
That came later in my life appropriately, right? Like that's very appropriate. I created what I believe in. I have faith in what I believe based on my personal experiences. That works for me. What happened is like what happened was is I started to see numbers
Right.
everywhere. Like it
Right.
was insanity. And I
Right.
had already had all these weird, quote unquote, experiences from being a psychic person, like you have had. You know what I mean? Like we're all hanging out with us, weird stuff happens. Okay,
Right. Right.
we're
It
little,
does. It just
we're
absolutely does.
conduits. But
Yes.
like having it was like everywhere I went, I was seeing numbers, 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 numbers. And it
Right.
wasn't just triple digits, it was quadruple digits. It
Right.
was on mail, it was on billboards, it was on cars, things like that. And you can go on Google and you can look those things up, and there's a lot of information. But I started to realize that that was now with all of my time that I've had it's ingrained in my life. Seeing numbers is just so normal to me now.
Mhm.
I'm almost desensitized
Well,
from the
it's kind of
experience.
like when y'all, I'm gonna be honest with you. When you work full time psychic, our normal is not your normal.
Trust me,
It just isn't. But she's
it's
bringing up
different.
another good point because you're leading me into our next topic here. Okay, and what I want to talk about is reading for ourselves.
Oh God, really?
Talk about discernment. What's it like reading for yourself?
I can't.
I can't.
Can you do it? I can't
Do
do it.
you
I
know
can't
why Ellie and I are friends?
because we read
Because
each other.
I did a reading
It's
for
true.
Ellie. Ellie in turn did a reading for me, and it just kind of
I,
went from there. It was
honestly,
like,
that's how we met. That's really how we met
it
because
is.
I can pull cards and get a general idea of what's going on. But like if I pull the tower card, I'm gonna deny that that's happening in my life. If I pull something I don't want to see,
Our discernment in reading for ourselves, I think, is just separating the emotions of what we're being shown.
I can't. I can't
I
do
know no, this cannot happen. Let's reshuffle that.
it.
That was somebody else's reading. That was not mine.
That'll be my next client. Like this is it for me. This is for my man. What are you doing? He's like, what the hell is going on? Like, what are you? False accusations happen when I read myself.
Exactly. And let me tell you, we do it all the time. We will
Yes.
always attempt to read ourselves. And if you're practicing and you're practicing with cards or you're practicing
Yes.
finding your gift or whatever, you're gonna have to look at yourself, but you got to find the discernment. And we are sitting here not practicing what we preach because we still can't
No,
pray for ourselves.
I try really hard. I mean, I do know some people that can do it. I think it's a
I,
very
t- I tell
uh
everybody it's very frustrating. It's like the old television set, where the static used to come on. I get bits and pieces of the picture.
yes,
So
yes,
I'm
exactly.
trying to figure out what's going to happen at the doctor's office next week. Okay. So I can
Exactly.
see me there, and that's all I can see. But if you call me from London and want to know where your car keys are, I can take you right to them.
Yes. It's weird. Ooh, that's good. You're a finder of lost things. Can we talk
Yes.
about that really
Yes.
quickly?
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm
So,
not a finder of lost things. I love that you're a
okay.
finder of lost things. I'm definitely going to send people your way. So, what is that? Psychometry, I think? Is that like,
I have
there's
no
got to be a
idea.
word for that. I know that you could pray to St.
I'm
Anthony.
good with keys and I'm cheaper than a locksmith.
I'm sending you to somebody I know. I'm sending you. I have somebody I could send to you right now. Her name is Stephanie. I just, I think that there everything has a vibration. So like you tap into the vibration of the thing and you can see it. I don't think I've ever really tried. I bet you I could do it. But
I'm
I'll leave
sure
that
you
to
could.
you. I'm gonna leave it to you. I'll just really call my friend Jackie because I'm
It's just,
good. I do
but
not want
you
to be
see
that
the point
person.
I'm making of how aggravating it is that you
Yeah.
can read the simplest things for someone
Yeah.
that's not even in the same
But
country.
can't find our own keys. If we lost our own keys, there's no way we can find them, but she can
Nope.
call them. Yes, exactly.
Nope.
Well, it's bias. We have personal bias. If I'm dating this crappy dude and I'm pulling all these crappy cards for dudes, I'm not gonna admit that that's him. I'm gonna be like, it was his daddy.
my
I don't want
daughter
because we
is
don't want to see it.
my daughter is famous and she'll call me and she's like, what do you think of this one? And I'm like, 3 weeks. Seriously, that's it. And I'm like, 3 weeks. Done. And it's like,
I stopped asking my mama about my man because of that. I didn't want to hear the truth.
that's
Well,
what it's
I think
just 3 weeks done.
you
It's
know you know what it makes me think about, Jackie, is blind faith. If I'm being
yeah,
honest,
yeah, it does.
if
Trust,
we're supposed to trust,
trust.
yeah, like
Yeah.
if we really knew what was going to happen in our own lives, do you really think we'd be sitting here talking to you like this? I'd be on
Nope.
in Jamaica on an island Cheers and Jackie right now. Like, see you later. There's no way,
I
right?
just no. I mean, there's just some things that you're just not meant to know. And I'll tell everybody when you get a psychic reading, if you know
Yes.
what's to coming, you might have a chance to change something. But then
Yes.
there's some things that are just fated. It's
Faded.
a life lesson. It might not be your life lesson, but
Yes.
it might be somebody else's life lesson, but you still got to go through it. So when we get into it, like I said, our emotions get involved.
That's the problem. That's why we have a hard time seeing what's
Or if you want to be like
happening.
my granddaughter who takes a deck of cards and picks out the ones she doesn't like and says, we're gonna
Dude,
go.
I love her though. She's got a style to her.
Does she know? She's like, I'm not really crazy
Listen,
about
she's
those
in
cards. We're just
control.
not
I
gonna
don't
use
like
it.
this card. I don't like this card. Now
And
the
we're
deck's
fond of
ready
the
for
tower.
me.
Let's take not trying to hear the tower day. Let's take it out.
Wise woman. Well, you can't avoid things too. So like I'm sure there's many times if I really thought about it where I pulled cards for myself and all of it came true and didn't even want to see it. We block out it's cognitive dissonance. We block out what we don't want to see
So are we also guilty of what we were talking about, questioning if we have seen a sign or not?
all the time.
All the
What are
time.
you talking about? Listen, this is all coming from personal experience. I am
Exactly.
in complete denial of my own life. Trust me. Like
Exactly.
and we have trauma, right? So like trauma can cloud our judgment.
Exactly.
Unhealed wounds can cloud our judgment. Our
Exactly.
our fears of
And when we
things.
read for someone, we don't know the whole story.
No,
We're looking at your
we're
questions.
not
And
biased.
we don't know what your childhood was like and what your upbringing was like and what led you to be with this person.
You
So
know,
there's no biased anything there.
Well,
We're
it's
making
attachment.
biased of ourselves. I mean, who knows your story better than yourself?
Buddha says, exactly. Buddha says the root of suffering is attachment,
True.
and attachment is the root of suffering. And
True.
so a lot of times, and I think that that has a lot to do with it. We're attached to the idea of how we want things to be, how we want things to go. I get clients all the time. They're like, that's not what I was expecting you to say. I thought you were going to say this, 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 and this.
And that goes
Jackie.
back to the upsetting. No,
Yeah.
I've never done that to her. I'm like, are
She's
you
never done
sure?
that.
Are you sure?
She says, "Are you sure?" She's yes, that's what she says. Yeah.
Are you
Just
sure,
making
Ellie?
sure. But yeah, they I didn't mean to get you off track, but you know, when we are attached to something having a certain outcome, that's not manifesting. That's not creating a reality. You're pushing something that isn't meant for you. And so spirit's going to redirect you and you're
I
going to
had
get disappointed.
I had a psychic say something this week that I heard them say, and I'm going to repeat it because it was good. Okay. That is manifestation is the second law. The first law is vibration,
Yes. Yes.
you know?
Yes. You
So
have to
it's
get
the
on the
vibration
plane.
for the manifestation.
This is all connected to
So
signs and stuff too, because so
absolutely.
like you could have a day where you're like, I want, all of a sudden the thought comes into your head that you want a different job. Okay. You've never
Right.
thought about it before and you don't know why this is happening and you keep thinking about it over and over and over again. And then randomly you get an email from like indeed.com and
Right.
they're like, we have an opportunity. What the shit? And you hire one of us, right? And we're like, don't take the job.
Right.
You're
But
like, what do you mean? All these signs. And I'm
it's
like, we're
not
like,
this
no,
one.
it's not
It's
the right
not
time.
this
It's
one.
not
It's
this
not
one,
this one.
but it's coming because the
And
vibration is getting raised.
going back
Yep.
to the discernment of, like I said, my lifelong clients are the ones I made mad,
Yeah.
over was he the one? And I'm like, he's really not, but let's look who's coming in. And they're like, oh my
Love
God, this
it.
is not what I'm paying for. And I'm like, yes,
Always.
this is what you're paying for. You're paying for me to be honest. And when it's not him, they do come back and they're with you for the rest of their lives. Okay.
They're
But
my
when it's
most
us,
loyal.
and I've got something that I think I'm pretty sure I know what the outcome is going to be, and Miss Ellie blows that out the water, and I'm like, "Are you sure?"
No, because it's hard to tell. It's hard to see it for ourselves. We have all these things, all these moments, and the older that we get, the more experience that we have, the more sure we are of ourselves. And so we can be very blinded by our experiences.
Right.
Maybe your whole life, A plus B has equaled C. So why wouldn't you think A plus B equals C? Guess what?
I
Today,
remember your first reading when I said you're moving.
yes, I
You're
looked
moving.
at you like you were out of your fucking mind.
Yes.
I did not think I had just moved. I just was like, there's no way
Yeah.
that I'm moving.
Yeah.
Yep. And I moved. I moved a little under a year later. It literally happened. I think because
We're so routine.
yeah, well, I had already had such a profound synchronicity. Like my first move was very synchronized. It had a ton of signs. There was a bunch of spirits showing me and confirming to the
Right.
point where my external world, also my family, my friends,
Everything
were
just
like,
fell into
"This is
place.
really." They knew, they saw it too. I had that testimony, to give me that confidence. This move, when we're talking about moves, we're talking about 3,000 miles away and then 1,000 miles south.
Right.
So huge moves. These aren't just like down the street.
Right.
We're
Right.
talking about
Big
major
moves.
life transitions.
Mhm.
And so this time, my experience was extremely personal
Mhm.
and it was my own choice. It wasn't some sign from the universe. It was like, oh, I guess I'm going to do this. Maybe this is a good idea. I don't know if I want to do it. Like all these different experiences, a very different thing. And that's what Jackie said. She said it's going to be a different experience. It's not going to be what you think. I'll never forget it. And I
And
thought
there
she
was
was
no
crazy.
boyfriend at the time. No
I
boyfriend.
did not have a boyfriend. And I just want to say, I did not move for my boyfriend.
Right. Right.
I moved for a job that the universe plopped into my lap that I didn't even think that I wanted. I was
Right.
like, not even. I had been working my business
Right.
for. See, when I give you guys these examples, they're direct examples from my personal life.
Right. Right.
I literally had been working as a psychic for a decade and had no intentions of stepping away. And I
Right.
have a love of art and was offered this job out of nowhere right after COVID to
Right.
go be a graphic designer. And I remember I was going to Jackie and I was like, should I do it? Should I not do it? You know,
Yeah.
like she's like, yeah, yeah, and you're gonna move. And I'm like, I'm not moving. It's remote. I don't have to move anywhere.
So
Like
what did you
it's
tell me? Yeah. You're like, oh no, you're confused. I've already moved. Discernment, discernment. I'm like, oh, but you're moving again.
I really couldn't see it at the time. I really thought
Yeah.
she was picking up on
Yeah.
something that had already
Yeah.
happened, which does happen sometimes.
Right.
She's like, no, no. Lo and behold, less than 6 months later, 3 months in, I had come down to meet my new boss and I fell in love with the city that I'm in. And
Yeah.
I went home and I called my mom and I was like, it's happening again. It's happening again. No, no. And of course, I'm like, hey, Jackie, how you doing? What you got going on? So
But
guilty.
I
Like,
mean, it was
I'm
the,
guilty.
but yeah, that's what we're talking about with the discernment. Even during her reading, and she's like, "No, you don't understand. I just moved."
It
And
didn't
I'm like,
click.
"Oh no, 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 no! You don't understand. You gonna move again."
There was no way in hell in my mind that that was going to happen again.
Right.
Let me tell you something.
Yep.
It has been the most amazing experience to date, other than my first move. When
Right.
I moved, during my process of moving, I was on an online dating site like an idiot, and I entered the same radius
Right.
of my now boyfriend.
Right.
And when he connected with me, I literally have never talked more shit to a man in my entire life. I was like, I don't want anything. I'm just moving. I'm not interested. You're A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I completely tried to push him away. And it didn't work. I've been with him for over a year. There's no way that this guy is you can sit there and think that you know things for yourself. And you can
Exactly.
say that you know yourself. But if
Right.
things are meant, they are meant to be. You
If
cannot
it's faded, it
control
is faded
fate.
and cannot be turned around. So, Ellie, I'm
That
gonna
is
wrap
true.
this up with giving our
Okay.
contact information again. This has
Yes.
been a lot of fun today.
I
So
loved it. We can
I've
do this
enjoyed
more
this.
for sure. Yeah.
Okay, we have Ellie Lieberman at BeGuidedByTheLight.com, 818-427-3870. Jackie Tomlin at JackieTomlin.com at 804-731-2302. And of course, the general email, when spirit speaks podcast at gmail.com. We do want to do a show with some call-ins. So
Yes.
interested in calling in and getting a quick read, got a couple of questions, let us know. We want to hear from
All
you.
right. Thank you, everybody. Can't wait for the next surprise topic from Jackie. Jeez Louise. Enjoy your week. See you next week.
See you guys. Bye.